man, slow getting up, who has just been wreaking havoc in the St. Joseph backfield all day today. But, on that last play, and that's something they've been doing a lot, is leaking their center out. That center is eligible in the arena game. They use them like tight ends. But considering how dominant Duluth has been at attacking the St. Joe quarterback with speed, they have not been able to escape these pressuring defensive linemen. I wonder how much longer this is going to go before St. Joe maybe leaves Tolbert, or sometimes they bring in Oscar Scott down there and just leave him into block instead, because I don't know that you can just keep letting Van Boxel take these uncontested hits.
They started having that last week against Ozarks, and they had Brian Martinez kind of get involved in the running game. That's how they broke out of it. We'll see what they do. Van Boxel a little bit more time, and he goes to the running lane, past the line of scrimmage, takes a hit, but he got the first down yardage on 4th and 10. Got to have it for St. Joe. Dylan Van Boxel gets it done. DVB.
That was very, very close as he got to the line of scrimmage, getting back inside those hash marks, but just able to do it. And you notice they left 2 guys into block there, right on cue.
So now goal to go here for St. Joe, a chance to tie the game. DVB looking, has a man in the fingertips and dropped incomplete. Pressure coming late on the contested catch, again intended for Tolbert.
So leaked him out once again into the flats, one of the bigger guys on this roster. Obviously, Tolbert coming in, 6'5", 215. Should be one of their monsters down here in the red zone, but once again, might have to go back to the old, leaving some big bodies in to protect Van Boxel. That might be more important than getting those big body targets at this moment.
So it looks like there's a timeout on the field, so both teams going over to their huddles, wanting to talk this over. So for St. Joe, they are 5 yards away from a potential tie. And we've mentioned, we've talked about the names returning. Some of the newer names and guys that you've already heard a lot of. Lorenzo Thompson being one of those. Number 6, the wide receiver out of Hampton College in Virginia. He gets some big size, 6'3", 200 pounds. Otis Odom, the flashy 540-pound return man out of Reinhardt University and Kentucky State University as well. Adrian Tolbert, like you mentioned, 6'5", 215 pounds. That's a tall drink of water. And you got Oscar Scott as well on this team, 6 foot, 220 pounds. He's the team center out of Bethany College, and he was also in the Arena League last year as a team member of the Iowa Woo. So now it looks like it was the end of quarter, so we should be going to the second. It is still St. Joe Goats ball. Goal to go. Marker is put up, not quite at the 5-yard line. Looks like about the 8 is where they will have to try to work with. But still 4 downs to get it. Plenty of opportunities, barring another turnover, Aaron.
The officials are going to come over as the scoreboard put up on the big screen, a little bit off. It's still reading 0-0 in first quarter. I think that's what he came over to the PA announcer to talk about.
All right. Okay.
And now going down, going to confirm that with the teams and everything down there as everyone's just kind of standing around, looking around and saying like, hey, what's going on here? But it is just change of quarter. That is all it is. So again, 4 downs to work with here for St. Joseph to try to make something happen here. Again, the Goats come in 0-1 on the season, looking to avenge the Week 1 loss last week against the Lunkers.
This one goes on.
And Boxel takes a snap at the 15, rolls out to his right, has space, and caught. And there is your first St. Joe Goats touchdown in the garage here at the Civic Arena. It belongs to Otis Odom. Did they say incomplete? He had it, came down with it. Oh, man, they're going to say incomplete.
Yeah, the wall knocked it loose. He did not survive the ground because the wall, he reached up with one hand to hold up like, hey, I got it, and rammed it against the wall.
Oh, man. He was 99% of the way there. Maybe they try to go back to him. Van Boxel, this time incomplete. Bobbled around. Lorenzo Thompson, the closest one to it.
Yeah, just trying to throw it up to one of his taller receivers. And again, that pressure from Duluth. I mean, they're sending 3 guys into the backfield on every play and getting pressure. In a 7-on-7 game like the Arena League, that should leave some guys uncovered downfield, but there's just no time to find them. And the zone defense from the defensive backs for Duluth, they've actually got a lot of the throwing lanes covered as you get tighter. It's really impressive defensively here from Duluth.
And Boxel pressured again, backs up, hit as he throws, back in the end zone, and intercepted. That is a live ball. He comes out of the end zone. It's an interception nonetheless, but going to be starting just in front of the end zone. But for St. Joe, Aaron, it was looking so promising, and it ends in a turnover, again, thanks to Harbor Monster pressure.
Yeah, again, the pressure got back there. Ahmad Butler comes away with the interception. And again, it's the Duluth defense in a league that is primarily all about how much fast-paced action there is, all the offense, all the scoring. And St. Joseph, one of the best offenses we've seen. Last year, they were unbelievable. And obviously last week, that second half, unbelievable at how just efficient they are offensively, the big plays, the athleticism that they bring to the table, and Duluth has shut it down.
3 drives, turnover on downs, and then back-to-back turnovers. This one is thrown. It goes, oh, there we go. It goes off the video board here in the arena. It's going to be ruled an incomplete pass. So for those that might be familiar in downtown Kansas City with the Sprint, now T-Mobile Center, it's kind of got that video board hanging up over the middle. It's just like that here in the Civic Arena in St. Joseph, and that ball was thrown high in the air, again out of distress from Javante Johnson. It went off the video board, so they rule it incomplete. So now we know that is ruled as basically out of play. From the back of his own end zone, Johnson will try again. Throws complete, wrapped up around the legs, brought down.
He's going to be just a little bit short from the looks of it.
Raymond Boone, the first in there to make contact for St. Joe. And he is going to be just short. 3rd and 2 coming up.
So big third down here for Duluth, and for St. Joseph to try to get off the field in a clutch situation.
Johnson's going to pitch it back. He has his man. He can take off and run. This is Brockman, the other quarterback, and he throws, and it's bobbled and incomplete. Nifty play trying to get it to Ladarian McAllister, 6'4", 220 pounds, out of Lakeland, Florida. And good defense there from the Goats. Now 4th and 2 upcoming.
Yeah, McAllister was the one who snapped it back. And they just tried to leak him out there. They sold that was going to be a running play real hard. And then tried to leak McAllister out. The Goats did not bite.
2 yards to keep the drive alive. Johnson looking for the deep ball. Trujillo in coverage. Incomplete.
Well covered by Trujillo. Up against the 6'3" Dan Williams. But that was Trujillo, the 6'2", one of the bigger defensive backs for the St. Joseph Goats. And St. Joe needed that one desperately, and now they're going to get great field position right back.
And now you feel like this is the time for St. Joe. You need to capitalize on this drive. You've had 3 already, have yet to strike any points. 2 of those 3 ending in a turnover. The very first one ending in turnover on down. So prime chance here. Inside the Harbor Monster 15 now. Van Boxel, plenty of time. The most he's had all night. Going to run. Kept it in the lane, and he's tripped up and knocked down. I believe Daniels Jr. was the first in there. It was Derek Daniels Jr., high phenom athlete for this Harbor Monster team, as he holds Van Boxel to a rush of just about 1 yard. Nothing more than that. Second and 9. First running play, Martinez. And he is stopped. Not giving the edge is Duluth. Nicely done. Not giving Martinez any room to try to run and take off with that football. He had 7 carries last week, 31 yards and 1 touchdown, and he was a big spark plug of getting the offense out of that rut. They try to go to the well again here, and he might have even lost half a yard as they go back to the original line of scrimmage. Thompson, the motion man. And Boxel, a block from Tolbert. Pressure coming. Throws to the end zone and incomplete. Was close to getting it to Ryan Martinez, but batted out at the last second.
Not ever a bad idea to just throw up a 50-50 ball to Ryan Martinez, but that one may have been a little dangerous. I'm not sure you could call that one a true 50-50. Maybe fortunate that one ended up hitting the turf.
4th and 10. Final try again. Trying to take advantage of the turnover on downs. Van Boxel surveying, fires! Touchdown, St. Joseph, Lorenzo Thompson.
And Thompson goes up high, and we are an extra point away from St. Joseph inexplicably being back in the lead here, Dylan. They felt completely like they had just been overwhelmed in the early portions of this matchup, and their defense being able to create those 2 4th down stops to keep them alive in this thing while their offense was trying to find their footing, that's going to be massive, because now it's only a 6-0 game. It's felt like more than that, but it's only a 6-0 game.
Now Martinez. And not going to get there.
Well, now it's a 6-6 game, but the fact that this thing is tied after how this first half has mostly been going for them, I think St. Joseph has to be feeling good about that.
No doubt.
Knowing that the way that they are structured offensively to come back in second halves to explode on offense when they get it going, to be able to survive this first half where they're not down 21 like they were a week ago, I think they're definitely feeling like maybe they're in a good spot.
So how about that for the newcomer in the Arena League and for the Goats, Lorenzo Thompson. That was his third receiving touchdown of the season. 6 receptions, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns in the game last week, and he gets his first touchdown here today. And for some trivia question down the road, who was the first St. Joe Goat to score a touchdown either way in the Civic Arena, a.k.a. the Garage? And it'll be Lorenzo Thompson. He will be the answer to that trivia question all day long. Again, the team is sponsored by Garage Beer, so they call the Civic Arena here the Garage, or at least that is what I'm going to call it here. It seems fairly fitting for the Garage Goats, as some have liked to call them. Throw-off is away, keeping it in bounds, and on the return, here he comes full head of steam, Javari Flowers Jr., and he is tripped up right around the 15 as he just gets past it.
And we had an arm disappear underneath the carpet down there. I believe that was number 8 for St. Joseph, Jalen Jordan, but he gets up. He's all right. He's going to hop back on defense, play a little safety. Hey, you know what? That's what the turf tape on those elbows is for.
That's it. That is it. So Goats back on defense. Harbor Monsters back on the attack. It has been quite a game already, and we are tied at 6 as we are in the second quarter, just a little over 8.5 to go until half. Here's Johnson quickly getting it away to the speedster up the boards and colliding in. Kevin Felder Jr. able to take it. And now the marking is where exactly was he called out against the walls. They say it is second down as they're going to spot this right at midfield. So about 2-3 yards left to get. Call it 2 for the first.
He seemed to think that he was never touched when he hit that wall. He was asking the referee. He got touched by at least 4 hands, I think.
And they tried to pretty much do the same play but over on our left side of the field. If you're on offense, it's on the right side of the field, and it goes incomplete again. So trying to get with that quick catch and run to Felder to let the speedster use his time.
I think they're ruling this a catch, Dylan.
Well, it looked bobbled initially. If he did catch it, he just got back to the line again. So it's basically still just 3rd and 2. They pitch it back. Brockman, he can throw. He's a quarterback, and Goats get tripped up. Throw to the end zone. Did he catch it? Yes, he did. Touchdown, Harbor Monsters. And the throw down to field, Ladarian McAllister.
Great catch. Took the hit, survived the ground. Fence didn't break up a play on this one, as there you can see him going up high.
It was Angel Mata, number 10, in coverage for St. Joe. He's got the lone defensive interception for the team so far this season. He tried to get a shove there at the end, knocked the ball loose, but able to hold on to it was McAllister. Going for 1 here. Trying to take a 7-point lead. Johnson going to roll out to his right. Pump fakes now, fires a bullet. And he get it in? He did. So what an answer for Duluth. Again, here today without their head coach, Tony O'Neill, suspended 2 games. But, man, they are coming in here to some hostile territory. 2nd road game in a row to start the year for them. Ring night will be next week as they host the Wise Guys from Hot Springs. And that was a great response from Duluth, going right down the field and scoring, also converting on the 1-point try. So now a 13-6 Harbor Monster lead as we are barreling towards 6 minutes left to go in this first half. So another throw-off looming here. So we'll see who will get those honors. Derek Daniels Jr. is going to be the one to throw it away for Duluth. Odom is back to receive for St. Joe. Southpaw delivers. It's got to go 40 yards, so at least to the 10-yard line, and it bounces at about the 7 lane. There goes Odom with the speed and a juke. And again, the midfield flag comes in late. Otis Odom, he had a wide open lane. I could have gotten 15 yards out of that return at least. He takes it just past midfield, but we'll see what this flag is first.
Yeah, there might have been a reason for that lane being that wide open, I guess. Take a look if you can see it on the back end there. They threw it kind of where the hole opened up.
And the call is holding, so what you were alluding to, Aaron, is correct. So it takes a drive that was going to start in Harbor Monster territory, will now back the Goats up, and they will start at around their own 8-yard line. Van Boxel is going to take this upcoming snap in his own end zone.
And we'll see if they can get Boo Smith involved at all.
Not a target yet. Martinez was the motion man. Van Boxel going to try to float it to Martinez, trying to go down the field. Oh, and he brings it in. One-handed catch. Touchdown, Goats.
Ryan Martinez, we talked about never a bad idea to give him a shot at a 50-50 ball. And that one goes nearly 50 yards.
50-50 ball. He says, I only need one arm, one hand to bring it in. What a beautiful throw. One-on-one coverage. Oh, that's just a nice snag.
He's still down in that corner. Duluth calling for medical staff almost immediately. Now he's back to his feet. What a grab with one hand. Ryan Martinez, he was making plays like that all last season. He's the big play threat. Boo Smith, obviously everyone knew him the MVP season. Does it a lot with his speed and quickness. Ryan Martinez, the big body guy. More of a run after catch and go up, get those 50-50 contested balls.
My goodness.
And right there, showcasing it brilliantly. And now suddenly it feels like the floodgates have opened and it's on, baby.
It'll officially go down as a 42-yard touchdown pass. Van Boxel pretty much from the goal line, so it went 50 yards through the air. So now for the one-point conversion to tie. Van Boxel pressured, trying to veer back, and not going to happen. Into the wall, a slew of Harbor Monsters are there, and it was Samson Ty again, the first one there.
I was dangerously close to spilling some drinks, I think. But
So you want to know what the Arena League is about? This little second quarter, that's a good indication of what this is all about there. One play, high explosive offense and scoring. That is what we love to see. So 42 yards to hook up from Dylan Van Boxel to Ryan Martinez, and now makes it a 1-point ball game.
So now we'll see if the Kansas City Goats defense can come back and make another big stop. Doing it kind of an unconventional for their own style of way, with a couple of fourth down stops here in the first half is how they've been getting the ball back. No takeaway, or sorry, they do have one takeaway off the fumble recovery, but that was something that they specialized in last year. They were the leading takeaway defense in the Arena League, and that's something that Coach Dorsey preaches all the time. As Dorsey Golston, a former safety himself, had 4 interceptions his senior year at Wyoming, all-conference, Mountain West.
Local Casey Moe kid out of Southeast High School, still is a coach at Lee Summit North High School. Oh, what a hit right near midfield. So a good return, but he pays a price for it. As Felder Jr. laying the wood down right there at midfield, but good starting field position here for Duluth.
You got to love the fan engagement already. We got some hooping and hollering from the fan crowd, from the fan clan here in St. Joseph. This is kind of what we were alluding to in the pregame, that you could kind of get the sense that a town like St. Joseph was going to jump all over an opportunity like having their own professional team here at the Civic Arena.
They know a little thing or two about hosting some very high championship caliber football teams, and the Goats just add on to that here. It's a great opening night here at the Civic Arena. What a nice little snag here. Able to catch it one-handed, able to avoid a tackler or two. Marcus Sessmans, the tight end defensive lineman, 6'3", 230 pounds from Baltimore, Maryland, his first year with Duluth. Makes a nice little snag there. Moves the change for the Harbor Monsters.
As they're looking for yet another response here. So we'll see if St. Joe can finally make a play on a ball.
Pressure, Johnson, incomplete. So pressure from Carl Ware. He was coming in like a bullet. Forced Johnson to get rid of it early. Couldn't quite get it to his man. 2nd and 10.
Trujillo was a monster at getting those interceptions a year ago.
8 total interceptions, what he finished with. 4 of them he took to the house for touchdowns. Hasn't been able to get a hold of one yet, but still plenty of time here in this ballgame as we dip under 4 to go until halftime. 13-12 ball game. Snap back. Johnson with time, starting to run out. It's Ware again with pressure, dumps it out. Great two-legged tackle. able to keep the receiver from not going far. It was McAllister, but flying in on the tackle, I believe, for St. Joe was Raymond Boone, number 3. His first active game this year for the Goats. He did not play last week, but he is suited up, and that is what he can bring. The 6', 200-pound man out of Bowie State University out of Landover, Maryland.
Yeah, that was a great open field tackle by Boone. Bring in the Boone on that hit. Sticks him with a 3rd down and 11.
Monsters haven't moved in back-to-back plays. 3rd and 10. Mata coming with pressure. Brockman steps up. He can run in the lane if he wants to. And the flag is going to come in. So he ran with it, but he did not stay in the lane before he got past the line of scrimmage. So that is going to be a penalty, and that is going to move Duluth back.
I was curious how that was going to operate with obviously normally, like last year, they used that offense a lot when there was no quarterback run. They would pitch back to a secondary quarterback, which would make him eligible to run.
Correct.
But obviously that specialty loophole in the rules not being afforded here with the new rule change this year. If you cross that line of scrimmage, you need to be between the hash marks, whether you took the direct snap or not. Well, they are going to talk about it. And enforce the foul.
And now you can hear the cheer from these home fans here in the Civic Arena. And that's a big potential drive killer. So that backs you up 10 yards now after you went back-to-back plays of not getting a single yard. It is still going to be 3rd down, so still 2 downs. They're trying to make something happen. They're going to back them up even more.
You forget how big a 10-yard penalty is in a 50-yard football game.
Well, 10 yards should have backed him up to midfield, but it almost looks like there was something else there at the end, and it was a 15-yard penalty added on top of that. So now Duluth at their own 10-yard line, pretty much needing to go the length of the field. And now another flag is going to come in. Play will be blown dead. This is the 3rd false start penalty of the night for Duluth, and they are starting to run out of real estate to back up into.
And I believe you are correct, by the way, about the 15-yarder. That's why some officials had their hats off by the end of that. That's usually what happens when you've already thrown your flag. Probably what the big chorus of applause after the first foul had already been called minutes prior from this St. Joseph crowd. And now, needing the 4-yard line on this end of the field to get a first down, Dylan. So it's 3rd down and almost 40. 41 officially.
In his own end zone, through the air, down the field, and it is, I think they're going to say caught.
They're going to have a discussion about it.
I believe they're going to say he caught that.
Yeah, they're going to say he caught it, and he's a yard shy. So from 3rd and 41 to 4th and 1. Or are they going to give him the first?
I think they're going to rule it a catch, and I think they might give him a first. Now time's going to be called for here. So they initially had it at the 5, which is where they need to get, and then they moved it back to where he was 1 yard shy. So good eye there, partner. But how about that throw from his own end zone, traveling 45-plus yards through the air, and it was Jamal Couch that came down with it, 6'5", 240 out of Mississippi State, a product of the SEC, second year in the Arena League. His first with Duluth last year. He was with the Iowa Woo. And a nice contested catch to all of a sudden. This drive has life for Duluth. And trying to find the official down marker, I believe we're going to have a 4th and 1 play coming up.
So this is going to be big as they'll try some quick field repairs on the far end. Make sure that carpeting doesn't do any more hopping.
See dance team performing in the end zone opposite of our position right now. 13-12 ball game. Harbor Monsters on top of the Goats. We welcome everybody in here. Dylan Funk alongside Aaron Feely. And we just had a monster play for the Harbor Monsters, a throw from their own end zone, and it is caught. They mark it at the Goats 6-yard line. Big 45-yard reception to Jamal Couch.
And now they're going to say 1st and goal.
Say they're calling it that, but I believe they still have 4th down on the sticks, and now the officials are going to get and talk with this. Again, they needed to get to the 5-yard line to get the fresh set of downs. And as of right now, they're 1 yard away. So 4th and 1, that appears to be it. So here we go.
So they just haven't picked up the first down stick.
Correct.
Really the only issue.
That is it. 4th and 1, Johnson expecting the snap. Behind him, Hassan Brockman. It goes to Brockman. Avoids Mata to the end zone. And it is... They're going to say caught for a touchdown. I believe they are. Another skirmish there in the middle. And trying to see Brockman throws 50-50 ball, and he brought that in. Oh, my goodness, another touchdown.
I believe that was the initial quarterback, Javante Johnson, who came down with it.
Johnson this time will throw. Fade to the back corner.
Yeah, that one ended up off the bleachers.
As we got Mike Reynolds for the Goats, and that is number 44, Travis Whitlock of the Harbor Monsters with some extracurriculars after the play. Officials separate them quickly.
So a 7-point Duluth lead.
The players are staying put, so there was a penalty on the field.
On each side, which offset.
So I believe that was the Whitlock and Reynolds for some unsportsmanlike, as it was kind of one of those things. If you're a former offensive and defensive lineman, you know how things can go sometimes. You get the horns tangled up and you go just a step or two after the whistle, and that appears to be what the case is there. So I think it's just offsetting personal fouls. So it's nothing to the extreme of Whitlock and Reynolds that are having to exit this game early, but they are put on notice, at least for the time being, by the White Hat and the rest of our officiating crew here this evening.
And now St. Joseph with an opportunity to respond offensively. And, man, if they've got another response built in like their last one, we could really blow the roof off this place here in a hurry.
So 19-12, that is your score. Harbor Monsters still with the lead. It was tied at 6 at the end of the first, and we are under 2 to go until halftime here. Throw off is away, and that's heading out of bounds. I think, did it stay in the corner of the end zone? It appears to be the case. I thought every indication was going to say that was going to head out of bounds. Trying to deal with our blind spot here with these bleachers to kind of cut off that back corner of that particular end zone where a lot of the action has been happening over the past couple of minutes. As Aaron, we keep seeing it. The jawing continues to go back and forth between these two teams. No love lost whatsoever.
Yeah, the officials were trying to deal with having to turn around and seeing some players pushing, shoving, getting in each other's faces after pretty much every play.
So all that on trying to make a return, and they only got it to the 2-yard line. So backs literally against the wall here. St. Joe was in a situation like this last week, and the snap went over the head of Van Boxel and went for a touchback or a safety. He gets rid of it this time. It is caught and brought down pretty quickly.
Yeah, up to about the 5. That'll give him at least some breathing room.
I believe that is our first catch of the night for Boo Smith.
Yeah, they've had him staying into block, chip right off the edge initially on a lot of these plays, which is an interesting use of the reigning league MVP.
Pressure immediately. Van Boxel away, and it's over the head of Martinez. Not close enough for him to try to make a play on it. Defense closing in fast, and Deron Maxwell. But the common theme for this Harbor Monster defense, Aaron, it has been the pressure they have consistently been able to get on Van Boxel. And with his back literally against the wall in his own end zone, it doesn't make things much easier.
Yeah, and this is going to be a high-pressure third-down situation. Might be a situation where you're looking at Martinez once again.
In a situation where if you don't pick it up here, you might have to surrender it. And Boxall throws, and again, just a miscommunication as he was trying to give it to Boo Smith. Might have been going on a curl pattern, but instead he was streaking up the field on a go route. Miscommunication, that chemistry between he and Van Boxall, the new quarterback this year for the Goats, it just hasn't quite clicked 100% yet. So now 4th down here for St. Joseph. And injured Harbor Monster Derek Daniels Jr., he's down on his knees. He was holding his hand or his wrist, but now he's walking on his own power, so it appears to be okay. And for St. Joe, the smart play here is going to be to surrender, and that looks like that's what they're going to do. So again, just a refresher, no punts in the Arena League, so you have the choice of surrender. If you do, the ball will just go to the opposition, and they will take over at their own 15-yard line.
And so with 35 seconds left to go here, Dylan, obviously a league in which you can get a lot done in a hurry, but these defenses have definitely been up to snuff here tonight. Some of the best defensive play we've seen across the Arena League here in tonight's ball game.
I remember a sequence last year where you and I saw 3 touchdowns in a span of about 30 seconds or so. So anything can happen in an instant.
Including a pick 6.
Johnson to his man, through his hands. Oh, and hard into the base of the wall. My goodness, collision. Jarvie Flowers Jr., the intended receiver. Thank goodness everybody getting up. Everybody is okay. We covered from Kerry Galloway. And they both collided hard into the bottom of the wall, and mostly it was Flowers that took the brunt of that, the receiver. Thank goodness that they both are getting up okay. That was a collision.
That has been a battle all day today as well. Loved watching 21 on 11. They have made a couple of plays on each other. Thus far, it's mostly been Galloway getting the better of him. That's not to say that number 11 Flowers.
And they're saying zeros on the clock, but I believe it should not be zeros because the clock should have stopped after that incompletion in the Arena League. The clock will run, but it will stop after incompletions and penalties only after there is under 2 to play in the second and fourth quarters. So right now they put 5 up there. Johnson throws to his left. And here's a man with some space. Brockman trying to make another man miss. It's Trujillo that wraps him up along with Galloway at the Goats' 15-yard line. Pierce timeout is being signaled for
the first down, and it might be the end of the half as we get the clock figured out.
Well, now they have the official, the red cap, who is essentially his sole job is keeping track of the time and the pace of the game. So he is going to come in with our white hat crew. So 20 seconds is what's going to be put up on the clock. So still plenty of time here for Duluth to try to make something happen. And that was huge for Hassan Brockman. Once he got that one broken tackle, Aaron, there was plenty of green turf in front of him to pick up an extra 15, 20 yards, and that's exactly what he did. And what a chance here for Duluth to potentially score and before the end of the half, maybe with a few extra seconds. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But right now with the 19-12 lead, they have been in control. They have led all throughout this game thus far.
And a chance to really build upon their own momentum going into the half with a 2-score lead would be big for them. But last year we thought in an early game for when they were the Kansas City Goats, similar scenario here. They ended the half with a pick 6 that ended up flipping that entire football game.
It's very true.
Home opener last year.
Johnson, a bullet, McAllister, and he will move and get about a yard or two shy of the first down. He's escorting to the wall, and another timeout will be called here for Duluth, and I believe they should have one remaining after this timeout. So they had the incompletion on the first play. That stopped the clock automatically, and then they've had back-to-back completions, and then thus burning those 2 timeouts. I do not recall that they had to burn one earlier in the game, early on in this first half.
With 14 seconds here, big situation coming up. And Duluth will also be getting the ball to begin the second half.
So now you're in that position here, no matter what kind of football you play, you can kind of double dip in this scenario. Score to close out the first half and then get the ball fresh out of the gates in the second half. That's exactly what Duluth wants to do. 14 seconds. Johnson right behind him is Brockman. He throws it right by us, and it's incomplete. Fans scampering over to the ball. You get a ball in this league as a fan, you get to take it home and keep it. What an ultimate souvenir. And, for the Goats, they pretty much had a second defensive back on that. That fan was over to that ball in a hurry.
Yeah, and he hasn't returned. The guy who came over and snagged the ball, he booked it through the curtain. He hasn't come back. He's taken that one home, I think.
Little fade route to Dan Williams. It went incomplete. His hands went over the wall, lost contact of it. Fan took it. Haven't seen him since. He might be running out of the Civic Arena with his souvenir. 8 seconds on the clock.
You can see Carl Ware itching.
Here he comes, and a throw from Brockman. No call yet. They call touchdown. They have. And a flag there towards the end.
And you kind of felt like this game was building towards seeing one of those at some point.
Yep, touchdown all the way. Clean catch. Contact taking him down into the wall. So another 6 on the board here for Duluth. There it is, 25-12. Flags are thrown. We'll see how they want to sort these out. As I believe where things should stand just on the base of that last play, the pace of it, I should say, there should still be maybe a second or two left in this ball game. They'll have time for the conversion regardless. 2 seconds officially on the game clock. But more penalties to have to assess over here for these officials who have been kept busy tonight in this game. Again, it has been chippy from the start. A lot of jawing, a lot of action going back and forth. Unsportsmanlike's being handed out here against Kansas City, or against St. Joe, pardon me.
And if nothing else, St. Joe will at least have 2 seconds to potentially make something happen on the throw-off return, because, again, they will not be getting the ball to begin the second half.
Johnson quickly to Williams, and he's got it. 1-point conversion try there. Was able to slip away from Kerry Galloway. That's a big man, Dan Williams, seeing him right up close in person. So 2 seconds still left before halftime, 26-12. Harbor Monsters not going to have to worry about that come from behind bid possibly so far, at least as far as this first half has gone along. But again, for St. Joe, Aaron, it's another case of this offense. They were held to 13 in the first half last week. His high explosive offense, best offense returning from the league a year ago. And now it looks like it's a 12 spot put up for him so far. And unless something really awesome happening here to close out the first half, they're going to be held to under 20 points in this first half once again.
Yeah, that's been
a gift card.
Halftime now in St. Joseph, and the Goats trail 27-12. Duluth has come out pretty strong after not a very high-scoring first quarter, only 6 points in total. And now the Harbor Monsters, with that last-second score by Dan Williams, they've kind of pulled away a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be tough now. I mean, now, the Harbor Monsters get the ball at the beginning of the second half. They got a chance to really put this game away or really make it a lot more difficult for the Goats. So, I'm not saying Booth Smith has not even had a pass attempted to him tonight. I don't understand what they're trying to do offensively, but obviously if you got the best guy in the league and he hasn't had an attempt, something is wrong.
Usually a sign that you got to do something better.
Yeah.
Also adding on that you're trailing as well. So Booth Smith, certainly that's going to be a point of emphasis in the locker room, trying to get him more targets, and then on the other side, just keep shutting him down because they haven't been able to get anything to him. Not even anyone attempting passes to Booth Smith.
Duluth has probably the biggest receivers in the league. These guys are 6'5", 6'6", and 6'3", 6, and they're big guys.
Sure.
And when you look at these DBs, they're not big guys. And anytime you get inside the 10-yard line, it's very easy to throw the ball up and get the ball to a big guy. So it's going to be very difficult for the Goats to really stop this team. They really have to rely on mistakes by the Harbor Monsters, and right now we're not seeing a lot of that.
I mean, the Harbor Monsters, they've just been throwing it up, and the receivers have just been catching them inside about the 10-yard line. We saw Jamal Couch. That was the big number 6 that we were seeing. You pointed that out before the play even started. You're like, what's that one?
It's just so simple. You got a 6'6" guy versus a 5'9" guy. What else you do? To throw the ball up, let the big man go get it.
Dan Williams also chipped in 2 scores through the air. He hauled those in. He just hauled in that big 2-point conversion. And it's also the mental errors because the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty from Jalen Jordan, that pushed the 2-point conversion from the 10-yard line to the 5-yard line. Easy too.
No, look, I mean, I understand that you want to win on every, time you're having competition out there, but sometimes you're going to lose. And not that you have to be good with it, but you can't double that by getting a penalty and things of that nature. And I think right now the Goats are so, jacked up, trying so hard that they're making a lot of mistakes.
Tony O'Neill, the head coach for the Duluth Harbor Monsters, was suspended 2 games prior to this one for inappropriate comments made on Facebook. And now the person that steps up is the defensive coordinator, Michael Johnson, and you really haven't seen much of a lapse, if anything.
No, these guys are a machine. I mean, they figured this thing out at the end of last year, and it's really, really tough for teams to come up to their level at this particular point. I thought the Goats were a team that really challenged with the Harbor. As we see right now, it hasn't happened.
The Goats 7-1 in the regular season last year. Dylan Van Boxel, the quarterback for St. Joseph, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Those 2 touchdowns were to Ryan Martinez and Lorenzo Thompson. So they had a little bit of success early, but it just seems like the Goats offense can't keep up with the Duluth attack that just keeps coming.
Yeah, look, I mean, anytime Duluth has the ball, you can almost put the ball in the end zone. So when you get the ball, you have to score. You got to find a way to score, because if you don't, you're just going to find yourself falling behind. Now, the first quarter, they were struggling a little bit, both teams. Duluth got theirs going in the second quarter, and the Goats have yet to get that done.
This is the first ever Goats game in St. Joseph Civic Arena, so make sure you download the Fanclb app for exclusive experiences. You can even watch the second half in the box with Mr. Hall of Fame right here by my side, Mr. Big Shot. So you can do that if you download that app. Much of other cool prizes as well. But right now, 27-12 is the score. Duluth leads. If we want a key to the game for the Harbor Monsters, they're up right now. What do they have to do?
Look, I mean, they just got to come out and play good defense like they've been doing. Right now, we haven't seen any sparks from the Goats offense at all. So long as they don't give up big plays, because I'm sure they're going to try and they've got to come out and throw the ball to Booth Smith some kind of way. And as long as you can shut him down, they got a good chance of walking away with a victory.
And then what about on the other side? The hometown team, St. Joseph, playing their first game in St. Joe. They trail by a wide margin. What can they do to get back in this one?
Yeah, they got to find a way to make big plays. And, I want to say stop Duluth, but I don't know if that's possible with the defense that they're employing right now. So it's going to be tough for them. But, you got to play hard and try and make this thing happen.
A pretty impressive crowd on hand for the first ever Goats game in St. Joe. A lot of attention, of course, coming from that Garage Beer sponsorship. A lot of fans in the seats behind us. They got us on the video board right here. So it's pretty exciting stuff. We got some bands. We got entertainment. Pretty hard hits too. I mean, those boys were banging into the walls all game long so far.
Look, man, everybody's playing hard, and you can always appreciate that. A little bit too much after the whistle for me, but at the same time, I get the emotions of what you're trying to accomplish. But hopefully, they can come out and play a clean second half and get this thing accomplished.
We were right by the St. Joseph bench. A lot of chirping, a lot of extracurriculars going on.
Not a lot of words we can't repeat.
Exactly. But right now, Duluth has the bragging rights so far. We're going to see them talking, and we're going to hear them talking for sure. 27-12 is the score right now. Duluth leads St. Joseph. Thanks for tuning in to the Arena Game Day Halftime Report. For Riley Underwood, for Tim Brown, we will catch you after the game on postgame. Enjoy the rest of it.
Defensive coordinator in this game, looking to make this 15-point comeback as Duluth will get the ball to start the second half. Throw-off is down the field, taken into his own end zone by Felder Jr., and he is tripped up at around his own 15-yard line. Good job for the throw-off recovery team to get down the field and limit a big potential play right out of the gates.
Yeah, and I tell you, Kerry Galloway has impressed me so far here in the early goings of this game, making the tackle right there. He has been physical, and he has been explosive on the back end, broken up a couple of deep shots to this point, and he's not been afraid, despite being a smaller framed player, listed at 5'7", 150, but he has stuck his nose in there a couple of times and made some big hits.
In his first year playing at the professional scene, he is feeling right at home here in St. Joe. First play, again, no surprise. They go to Dan Williams as he brings it in about 4.5, 5 yard gain right out of the gates. Again, he's been the big threat against this defense earlier. Aaron, 6'3", 200-pound man out of St. Louis, Missouri. His first year here in the Arena League and with Duluth. He has spent many a times around the professional football scene, including stints in the NFL with mini camps with other teams like the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Browns up in Cleveland. He's fitting in right at home in Duluth.
Oh, good pass rush there. Oh!
Incomplete, and a flag comes in. Knocked loose by Raymond Boone. His first game here as a GOAT. Didn't appear last week, and he put the hammer down, but a flag comes in immediately. Could see some potential helmet-to-helmet contact.
Yeah, he might have brought the helmet down just a little bit there. And unfortunately, that's going to go from a great play to a 15-yard penalty and a free first down.
Waiting to see if they get a replay queued up here to see what exactly happened. I mean, it's always one of those things to make that kind of call in a bang-bang scenario, but it's a first down. And they're moving it up for Duluth. They'll be at their own about 21-yard line, getting close to midfield. Williams, the motion man. Johnson looking to throw, incomplete. Getting there again is Boone. Maybe a half tick early as he knocked down Felder Jr., but the pass way behind him, it goes incomplete.
Yeah, I think they're just going to say, good old uncatchable right there. That one was right into the turf. Kevin Felder Jr., interfered with or not, was not going to be able to pluck that one off of the shoestring. So just a simple incomplete pass.
2nd and 10. Felder Jr., the man in motion. Johnson going to heave it to him, and he gets tripped up by the shoelaces. That's an automatic flag.
Yeah, I don't know if they were going to him or they were trying to just load up the fade to Dan Williams, because Williams and Martinez ended up right near that ball. But, yeah, obviously the flag going to come in for Felder Jr., getting absolutely tackled from behind by Raymond Boone. So this drive not going great for number 3. Boone going to get hit for his second foul on the series.
Pass interference penalties in the Arena League, not spot fouls. They are 10-yard penalties. So think in high school, think in college, where it's 15 yards, not spot fouls. That's how it goes here. So just a 10-yard penalty, but now that moves Duluth into GOAT territory. Johnson to throw, behind him to Brockman, who he can throw. He does. 50-50 ball, and it goes incomplete. Raymond Boone, we've called his name out plenty already on this first drive in the second half, able to get a fingertip on it as that ball was just kind of heaved up via the pressure on Brockman.
Yeah, they were trying to get that one to Marcus Sessions, and I say trying to get it to him a little bit loosely. Might have just been a throwaway, but honestly, if Boone had been playing the ball right out of his hand, instead of trying to keep a hand on Sessions throughout that thing, I think he's able to get back and make the play. But instead, he wanted to make sure he knew where his receiver was, and it might have cost him an interception.
Another 2nd and 10. Quick go. Johnson able to give it off to his man right near the sticks. Keeps rumbling. Whistle was blown. Play is dead. Where will they mark him?
They're going to say he did not hit the wall, so they're going to give him the full progress of that play. That'll be 1st and goal from about the 6.
Ladarian McCollister again on the catch, and he takes it close to the 5-yard line. So another change that's been made. Last year, the walls were viewed as dead, so as soon as you hit it, the play was done. This year, if you make initial contact and you're not kind of forcefully stopped or your momentum is stopped, they will let the play keep going. That's a good example of it right there. Now Johnson looking to throw again. Pressure coming across his body and batted out incomplete. Boone again, but it was pressure from Carl Ware that got back to Johnson, and that's one of the rare times where we've seen Johnson get knocked down to the turf.
Yeah, I think now Duluth is maybe starting to try to locate number 3 on defense. They've been targeting Boone on this series, but there he makes a great play defensively. Best way to keep a team from trying to pick on you is to give them a reason not to, and making plays on the ball like that will be a quick way Duluth will start going somewhere else with this ball.
Brockman stepping up. He can run with it in the lane, trying to avoid a couple of tacklers, and he's not going to get there. He's going to be taken down, but inside the 5. They'll mark him, let's say, right at the 3-yard line, so pretty close distance here for Duluth, already in goal-to-go scenario. Good tackling there for St. Joe to keep him out of the end zone. At least going to make him run one more play. 2 plays to get 3 yards to continue to widen this lead and break the 30-point seal for Duluth. You got Simmons in the backfield alongside Johnson. He's over to his right. Give it to him. Sessum's trying to run it, and
doesn't get very far.
No, he does not. Maybe back to the line of scrimmage. If not, he might have lost a half yard or so.
So we'll see how much we're able to see of this play live as we get to a big-time 4th down.
So from the middle of the field onward towards that far side of your screen for everyone watching at home, you see those bleachers right there. They are cutting off our view, but we are watching along on the big board up top. They pitch it here to Brockman. He's looking to throw. He throws it to the end zone. Duluth is saying touchdown, and it appears to be. So he ditched it to Brockman. He threw it to the end zone, wide open there, and able to bring it in almost uncontested. Ladarian McAllister. And again, for this Goats defense, Aaron, they get Duluth down to their final potential play, and the Harbor Monsters just seem to find a way to hit pay dirt.
Yeah, this is what made Duluth the league champions a year ago. Arena Mania champions against Iowa. And you're seeing that championship mentality on display here early on, and the Goats trying to get back to it after being last year's #1 regular season team. But slipping and sliding, not able to get their footing under them here in the early goings of this year.
Deficit is now 21, pending this 1-point try. Lob it up and not going to be able to bring it in. Trying to go to the big fella, Dan Williams. Ryan Martinez was the one in coverage for the Goats. So it stays a 21-point ball game, 33-12. And for St. Joe, you're going to get your first crack at offense here coming up in just a few moments. And you know this team, they're wanting to come out. They're wanting to give these fans something to cheer about. When they've had the big plays and them being the Goats, we've heard this crowd get loud and behind the team. But now you're kind of, I don't ever want to get into that territory where it's a must-score possession or you got to have it this possession. But you need to start showing some signs of life and leaf, and it could start with getting Boo Smith more involved.
Let's see if they can get him involved down the field as well. Martinez, obviously another big play threat, but Boo Smith's the speedster, and 1 catch for 4 yards is not a general stat line for the reigning league MVP.
He finished last week, 8 receptions, 123 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He had 1 reception for 3 yards, just like he did tonight last week, and then he exploded where his final 3 catches of the game went 25-plus, and all 3 went for touchdowns as that game got on late in that game where the offense finally erupted for St. Joe. Going to need a little bit more of that here. Can use a good return from Otis Odom. Let's see if he can do it here. A little bit of a wobbler. Might have grazed the top video board here in the arena. He takes it past the 15-yard line and up against the walls. And extracurriculars again here. This time it's Adrian Tolbert and Tony McCraw for St. Joe and Duluth respectfully.
And I believe that was Oscar Scott there, the center. So he's got to come right back out. He's going to have to fix his shoulder pad.
That's it. It is Oscar Scott, number 83, 6 foot, 220 pound, out of Bethany College.
Well, when the jersey's all thrown up like that, and sometimes it's a little difficult to see the difference between the 3 and 2. But, yeah, it was actually Raymond Boone who got flagged a few times defensively on the last play that came over, keeping his head in the game. Grabbed Scott and just pulled him away from the altercation and said, all right, we can't afford any more of these.
As the work continues to be done to the turf here, there have been multiple spots now where it's kind of been brought up in the middle of all the action. We've seen instances where we've seen players trying to run and get taken underneath the turf. There's even one point where somebody had their arm completely underneath the turf field, so they continue to try to patch that up as play is kind of slowed down here for the time being. So big drive coming up here for this Goats offense, trying to show some signs of life, just looking for anything to get themselves going. So we continue to take a look at all the fans here in attendance in the Civic Arena in St. Joseph, Missouri. It is a great crowd on hand here. It definitely has a little bit more of that arena football atmosphere, something you and I were talking about hours before the game even got started, that we thought this was going to be something that was going to bring a little bit more of that energy, and it definitely has been that. I think a big reason why they decided to make this what was once a temporary move from Kansas City to St. Joe eventually permanent back on April 15th, where they had the full rebrand and called them from the Kansas City to now the St. Joseph Goats, and they are fitting in nicely here at home. So now we have Angelo Trujillo. He is back as the lone man in the backfield for the Goats. He does have Lorenzo Thompson over to his left. So as of right now, looks like some change temporarily at the quarterback position. Angelo Trujillo might be taking over for Dylan Van Boxel.
A little bit of razzle-dazzle potentially, but first, a quick break.
Now we get the green light. Here we go. So change being made here. Team down 21 points out of half. Trujillo will throw and right to Thompson, who is immediately taken down. It from behind. Number 24 for Duluth do not have a 24 on the roster given to us, unfortunately, but he made a nice tackle as Thompson was able to pick up about half the yardage.
Good opening play here. Try to keep yourself on schedule. And now Boo Smith in motion. This is more how I thought they'd use him.
Trujillo with time over the middle. There's Boo, and he pitches it back. Has it to his man Adrian Tolbert. Helmets come flying, as do flags. It was Martinez, the one that lost his cap. And it looks like a flag could be coming in here and a penalty possibly against Derek Daniels Jr. and the Harbor Monsters, and that appears to be the indication.
Yeah, it was a first down regardless, and now they'll get a few bonus yards for some altercations after the play, and there's been a fair share of those all day.
So to throw to Smith there in the middle, able to pitch it back. Tolbert was there, was able to pick up about an additional 5 yards that Smith may or may not have been able to get to and tack that penalty on top of it. And this is exactly what you wanted here if you're St. Joe on your first drive in the second half, down 3 scores. So now all of a sudden at the doorstep, goal to go from the Duluth 10.
Uh-oh.
Throw from Trujillo and goes incomplete into the bleachers. Martinez trying to grab it, and also in there Tony McCraw.
And
little skirmish again. No flags thrown yet.
Yeah, that was, I believe, Martinez. Ball off the wall is fine, but off the bleachers is not.
Right.
And it just hit the bleachers, came back in, and the Duluth defender still tried to rip the ball away from him, and I guess Martinez took a bit of exception to that. And after flinging him to the ground, stood over him for a second, and Duluth, the teammates, took exception to that. And after all said and done, second down.
Trujillo, another throw, this time to Smith, who runs right across the field, trying to pitch at the last second, and the ball's on the turf. Goats might have gotten back on top of it. I believe that's Tolbert. Third down will be coming up, and that is a godsend there. Johnny on the spot for Adrian Tolbert, avoiding what would have been another turnover in this game for St. Joe.
And Smith showcasing the speed on that play. Definitely looked like a guy with a lot of burst, but then the decision to pitch at the last second almost turned disastrous. But they'll get 2 more cracks at this.
Trujillo avoids one. He could take it in the run lane. He gets past the line of scrimmage, and he goes into the end zone. Flags come in. As of right now, it is a St. Joe touchdown for Angelo Trujillo, his first drive of the season at quarterback. But let's see what this flag is all about. And he needed to get to the 10-yard line to be able to run it the rest of the way.
And we'll see on the replay here as he gets to the 10. He's well inside the hashes. The flag was late, almost after the play.
Right.
But it was thrown well behind the play. And now the Goats are all throwing their hands up that this is a touchdown.
And that's the call on the field. Touchdown, maybe just picking the flag up, and the play will stand regardless. Touchdown, St. Joe, and it goes of the rushing touchdown up the middle from Angelo Trujillo.
You'll have to excuse me there for a moment, Dylan, as I was busy fan watching and got some of the reactions of some of the younglings in attendance that were really hyped up about that call. And you know what? That's what we're here for.
It's been a great time. Everybody, all ages, have been having a great time here in the Civic Arena. And that is Duluth that came across early. That will move for the time being St. Joe a little bit closer. Still sticking with 1-point conversions. Haven't seen anybody line up for a 2-point conversion yet, which current circumstances right now don't necessarily call for it. St. Joe looking to make it a 33-19 game. Flags up immediately. And now we got a full start. So St. Joe got the penalty yards, and now they give it right back to Duluth on the very next snap. I mean, a false start or illegal formation being the call there. So, back to square one. 1 point shy from the 5.
Well, they just offset the long way is all they really tried to do there.
Trio pressure to the end zone, and it goes right to the back wall, incomplete. I believe was trying to zip it into Ryan Martinez. He was covered up on the play by Duron Maxwell.
Yeah, just nowhere to go with the football there. He was pressured immediately, forced to roll to his right. And I think he was pretty much just whipping that thing into the wall just to avoid the sack. None of his options were even remotely open, and he just did something that would at least not result in a turnover.
Believe so.
But a touchdown on the board, and that's the important thing here for the Goats, is now they try to flip it and get the defense rolling.
So conversions have been hard to come for tonight so far for St. Joe. They're 0 for 3, but still plenty of ball game left, and now for the defense, just got to find a way to start stringing together a couple of stops or two, maybe get a turnover, and all of a sudden you got a brand new ball game.
And Kansas City St. Joseph still with just the one takeaway to this point. And that was early on in the game. No interceptions yet. And I think you have to imagine that's something that Duluth came in with attention to, is make sure that you are careful with the football because you know St. Joe. And that one might have been off the scoreboard.
Either the scoreboard or the ceiling entirely. It was Lorenzo Thompson on the throw off. Now, now you almost got me saying it. For St. Joe last week, they struggled mightily with these throw-offs, and for the Ozark Lunkers, they had probably 5 or 6 penalties on throw-offs, and that led to, again, the team gets the ball at midfield at the 25, and that one from Thompson, I think it actually hit off the ceiling into one of the rafters because it didn't look like it bounced off the scoreboard. But nonetheless, it did not go the necessary 40 yards. It's got to fly through the air and land inside the opposing 10-yard line, and then from there it is game on. But half the field to go here for Duluth. And play will be held up again. It looks like we could have a kind of field repair timeout. There are multiple parts of this field here where a lot of these lines are dug up right now, trying to keep player safety all in mind.
So some free T-shirts will be thrown out.
There we go. Love seeing that.
Oh, there we go. Now we got the ex-pitchers or something coming in at the back end of the dance squad here for the Goats. Able to get those things up into like the 5th or 6th row.
As you see them, they continue to make repairs there onto the field. And again, the last thing that anybody wants to see, especially in this arena football scene, is someone that gets tripped up by that and gets taken down. And it could be something that was fairly avoidable, and then it could lead to something that's a lot worse than that. So taking the time trying to repair that, particularly over on that far side part of the field from us. That is the 15-yard line. That has been the main culprit of the turf monster throughout this game, where it got kicked up and kind of torn apart right from one of the first few plays of the game, and has been an issue ever since. And once the white hat almost tripped on it, he said, we need to get this fixed, and he is overseeing that right now. So good job for him.
Usually how that goes. All right, you guys can trip on it all you want, but I just tripped on it, so now we're fixing this.
That's it.
And we got our answer with the low-hanging scoreboard here in the St. Joseph Civic Arena. Off the ceiling is the same as out of bounds, so it is a penalty and the ball at midfield.
Johnson throws, looking for Williams. Incomplete.
And once again, back deep in coverage. I believe, no. It was actually Ryan Martinez in coverage. I was about to give his credit to Gary Galloway again. But
he had Boo Smith back there as well. So
Smith plays sparingly on defense, but clearly deciding they were in big need of a monstrous play. So in he goes.
Pass complete over to the side where Boo Smith is covering. It's caught and completed. Boo Smith, they only really played defense one true time for a full game, and that was last year in a home game against Iowa Woo, and that was on his birthday, Aaron. You and I were on the call for that one where he had the trifecta of pick sixes that game, and that got him some massive attention against a lot of local Kansas City news media outlets, and rightfully so. He is one of the stars of the Arena League, and now another defensive change being made as he's out there on the field for Coach Golston, the head coach and defensive coordinator for St. Joe. Williams, the motion man, pitch back to Brockman. He's going to throw, and it is incomplete.
Yeah. Not usually where those of us that have played receiver at any point that consider ourselves on the longer end don't usually like him way down there. Dan Williams, 6'3", threw it down at his cleats. It's not where we get used to trying to catch the ball, those of us that were of the 6'3" and above variety of receiver.
Yeah.
And that one ended up kissing the turf.
So here we go. Fourth down here. Got to have it to Williams using that big frame, and he rumbles to the 5. Mata trying to strip the ball out. Tape's coming off the padded wall.
And it looked like Raymond Boone was trying to get a Lambeau leap in there in the middle of all that. The play had been over for a hot minute.
From my fellow Chicago Bear, and he is calling out the Lambeau leap. I love it.
You truly hate to make that comparison, but alas, it's the only real thing I could think to call that, as he just almost hopped the whole pile and ended up in the crowd.
For Duluth, they have been almost automatic on fourth downs this entire game, been able to convert on nearly every single one. Another one there. Now a throw to the end zone. Hardened to the wall, but he held on to it. Touchdown Duluth. Coverage in late from Jalen Jordan, but not enough to knock it out of the hands of Javari Flowers Jr.
And Flowers, great hands on display there, and Duluth's offense is absolutely rolling. St. Joseph's defense had the advantage early on in this contest, but it has been all Duluth since about halfway through that second quarter. Their offense has just been clicking.
And just when you think for the Goats, they get the score, maybe looking to build some momentum, they get Duluth down to a fourth down play where they had to convert, and that's exactly what they did, and they score a play later. It's what Duluth has been able to do, and especially on that run after they started 1-3 last year. They rattled off 7 straight wins to cap off the year. Arena Mania champions are seeing a big part of it. Why right here? Felder Jr. is going to take the snap, but everyone wants to get started early.
And we do mean everyone. Pass rushers, blockers, receivers, pretty much everyone but the center.
It could very well be one of those things where you could just say false start, everybody but the center and the nose guard, if you will. But now it's a question of who came across first, and it is going to be against the Goats. Penalties plagued St. Joe in the game last week. 16 penalties were committed in that game against the Lunkers, and the walk-off Hail Mary touchdown handing the Goats their first loss here in 2025, staring down the barrel of second straight. Looking for 40. Directing some traffic, throw to the back near the wall. There's being incomplete.
And now the crowd all hop up, begging for the football. Doesn't look like they're going to get one this time, though.
Not this time, so conversion no good, so it stays Duluth 39, St. Joe 18. As the clock is stopped, 2 minutes, 19 seconds left to go in this game. Again, still plenty of time for St. Joe to make something happen. We have seen crazier things happen here all across the Arena League, but right now it is looking pretty much all in favor of Duluth.
This has kind of been their calling card, though, for the Goats. As of recently, to end last year and to begin this year, going down by these big margins, and then the offense just explodes in the second half. We'll see if they can complete a comeback if they're able to get one started here, as they have fallen just short of finishing out the comeback the last 2 times, but certainly never out of a football game the way they are able to just rattle off points in quick succession as Odom tripped there.
trying to make a couple of men miss, and he will be wrapped up for progress. We'll take him right to the Goats' 15-yard line. That is where they will take over. So one drive at the helm at quarterback for Angelo Trujillo as he got handed the reins to start the second half. He led the Goats right down the field for the touchdown. He rushed it in from about 10 yards out. And it looks like for Coach Dorsey Golston III, he is going to stay with that, sticking with the motto, if it ain't broke, well, I'm not going to fix it right now. See what this offense could do on their second drive under Trujillo. Sends a man in motion, Thompson. He's going to throw it to him. He's got some space. Nice snag from Lorenzo Thompson. Flag comes in. Ahmad Butler in coverage. He's going to get called for the interference, but no need. What a play for Lorenzo Thompson.
If there were an and one in football, that's what it would look like right there. An absolutely monster play downfield. Lorenzo Thompson, using all of that 6'3" frame, went up and got it.
Been around arena leagues and professional football since 2022. He last had a stint with the Sioux Falls Storms and the Tucson Sugar Scores of the IFL. He makes his way here to St. Joe, and he made an impact last week right out of the gates, and he has made some spectacular catches. That one atop the highlight reel here tonight. Odom with the snap, pitches it back Trujillo. He can run, and there he goes with the lane. Angelo Trujillo, back-to-back rushing touchdowns.
And there is a flag down.
Up on the near side of the field, from the screen for you folks at home. As to what exactly it could be, we'll see.
And I believe, yeah, as we mentioned earlier, even with the pitch back, the new rules this year, nobody is allowed to run across the line of scrimmage without a pass first unless they are inside those hash marks. So even with the pitch back, Trujillo unable to make this run right here, which is immediately you see the Duluth defenders asking for it.
Yep. All these different things, you can tell we're still just 2 weeks into the season. Trujillo throws across his body, usually a cardinal sin for quarterbacks. It goes incomplete, again trying to go back to the way of Lorenzo Thompson. Risky pass there for Trujillo.
And if he had been just a little quicker picking him up, I think Otis Odom right over the middle would have been good for at least 5 or so yards. And with his speed, maybe the ability to make that first guy miss, make a big play out of it, something that Trujillo might want back.
Quick throw to Smith, wrapped up immediately.
And Duluth is just not affording those yards after the catch here tonight. They are excellent with the form tackling to this point. You're going to have to probably throw this thing into the end zone if you want to get into the end zone.
Just 3 yards to Smith again. It's been about his high so far in this game. Over the middle to Odom. Can he make a man miss? He does. Otis Odom inside the 5, and he's hammered into the wall.
And what a play to break that tackle right after we said something. And you can see Oscar Scott trying to hurry him back up to the line, but this quarter is going to come to an end. So the Goats are going to have to go to the fourth quarter down by these 21 points right around the corner to come back and enjoy it.
So here we go. Trujillo takes the snap, avoiding the pressure, throwing across his body again. Somebody is here. It's Ryan Martinez into the corner of the wall, able to secure it for the touchdown.
I thought he was looking for you on that pass there for a moment, Dylan.
He might have been. It was right in my line of sight.
Ryan Martinez, just a little bit too good. He took it away from us up here in the booth, going up tall, making the catch, got himself wide open, and that is exactly what the doctor ordered for this St. Joseph crowd and these St. Joseph Goats as they look to start one of their signature comebacks.
It's one of those plays you see Trujillo with pressure, looking to throw across his body as a coach. You're thinking, no, 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 and then yes, there at the end, big thanks to Ryan Martinez, reels in the receiving touchdown, his first of the evening. Goats still going for one. Trujillo waits the snap, goes down to grab it. Pressure again, throws. Smith trying to make a juke and make somebody miss, but now he's wrapped up. That turf got pulled up again. Might have kind of halted his momentum for the time being. It was Samson Ty, the one that was able to bring him down. Flowers Jr. also in on the area. Whistles will blow, and I think of right now they might say that the play's dead, unless if there's a penalty flag somewhere on the field that I just cannot see from our point of view. But I see both Adrian Tolbert and Oscar Scott for the Goats kind of signaling everyone to come back at this end of the field as they might redo this play, as we do have a penalty on Duluth.
So big opportunity here for St. Joseph.
Personal foul was the call. That's a huge call there. St. Joe continues to look for their first conversion of the night after scoring a touchdown. They are, as of right now, 0 for 3, trying to avoid 0 for 4. With time, Trujillo again, back corner, this time too high, and Martinez bobbles over the PA crew, and he falls down onto the hard floor here at the Civic Arena, and he is still down, and they are asking for some trainers to come over. He appears to be okay. It was more of just taking a hard fall, trying to get his breath, getting the wind knocked out of him. Ryan Martinez, as tough as they come, and he came directly over the wall, and he landed.
Knocked the gate over.
Yeah, right into the steel barricade, and that is pretty much concrete floor that is right below. Thank goodness he gets up okay, and he's going to trot off on his own power.
The fans in that particular section also showing off some toughness. Now, you do get to keep the football when it goes into the crowd, but I don't think you get to take a player home if they end up in your section.
That would be some weird rules, but yeah, I think that is definitely the right call.
Always read the fine print, Dylan, when you're signing anything.
And another thing, I mean, when you get these field side suites too, I mean, that's the excitement and what can happen here in the Arena League. You can have a player jumping over, getting into your space and getting you close to the play. I see a fan here. She might have kind of made some contact with Martinez, incidentally, of course, as he was trying to make a play on the ball, and she kind of got hip checked on her side, and I think she's okay. But crazy action here in the Arena League. Throw off is on the way and takes a bounce and into our blind spot as it goes over near the far side wall.
Well, I can tell you that it's definitely not going to be premium field position for Duluth from the looks of it. I don't think he got any further than maybe the 2 or 3 yard line, if that.
They're going to mark him at the 1.
So not that. Pretty much as well as that could have possibly gone for St. Joseph.
Now, the one thing I am curious about, because if a ball bounces and it goes out of the back of the end zone or out of play after it bounces inside the 10, it is just ruled a touchback. The ball comes out to the 5. But, I mean, I would take that compared to just at my 1, but we'll see.
Well, the Arena League is all about offense and athleticism, so you know these guys have a lot of faith in their athleticism. Nobody wants to just take the touchback, Dylan.
Our Monsters have scored on 4 straight drives, and they give it to Felder Jr. to give him a little bit of space. Up the wall he goes, and they will mark him at the 10. So right out of the gate's a 9-yard play.
That's exactly what they needed to get themselves out of the shadow of their own end zone. Great blocking, by the way, out in front by Dan Williams, and I believe number 11, Gervais Flowers.
Johnson the throw again. This time it skips, looking over to his left, trying to feed it to his man, Marcus Sessoms.
So now a 3rd down and 1, key situation here.
This would be a key time for a potential Jayhawk and Mike Reynolds to get into the backfield and maybe get the first sack of the game for St. Joe. He had the lone sack last week. Or just anybody for the Goats. They will take a sack. Doesn't matter who gets it.
They're showing pressure. We'll see.
See if they bring it.
Yeah, who backs off?
Johnson, the only man in the backfield. Here he comes. It's Boone that gets pressure. He throws. It's caught but dropped. Incomplete. Had the space. Would have been a big catch for Flowers Jr. Boo Smith in coverage, and now a 4th and short scenario.
That was a well-disguised blitz from St. Joseph. Loved the design of it. All 5 guys right at the line of scrimmage. 4 of them ended up coming. One of them with a fake back step then came. Contain the quarterback, get the pressure, and you take away the middle of the field with Jalen Jordan operating almost like a Tampa 2 backer, just taking away that middle of the field.
And how about this for Duluth? They have been automatic on 4th downs tonight. It was 4th and 2, deep in their own territory, and they're going to elect not to play the chance. They're going to surrender, so Goats are getting the ball back at their own 15-yard line. Aaron, I don't know about you, but we a little bit surprised at the call there.
A little bit, especially with how aggressive they've been all game. But
exactly.
I guess not wanting to give St. Joseph the ball at their own 10-yard line just about. But now St. Joseph, a real opportunity here. The defense does its job. You've got an opportunity to make this a one-score game if you can get in the end zone here and still double-digit minutes up on that scoreboard.
Trujillo looking to make it 3 straight drives, ending in a score in this second half, maybe to bring the Goats within a possession.
Lots of time here.
Throwing it down, Booth Smith in the area, and it is incomplete.
A double covered there was Smith. That might have just been a designed play right from the jump. Because
again, it was in our blind spot trying to play it off the crowd. I didn't hear any cheering, so I just assumed that ruling was going to be incomplete and didn't hear any commotion from the Duluth fans or players here either, so no interception. But, yeah, double coverage there on Booth Smith. 2nd and 10 now. Trujillo will throw, this time at the sticks. Martinez there for the catch. He gets about 12.
And Ryan Martinez, he's been the go-to guy through the air for St. Joe here today. And hey, how about the leadership by Oscar Scott, getting his guys back up to the line in a hurry?
Surveying Trujillo to the end zone, has a man, brings it in, touchdown St. Joe Goats, Adrian Tolbert.
You know, the Arena Football League, or the Arena League here, not normally known for its high-end tight ends on display. It's normally a finesse speed type of game, as one of the fans down here trying his hardest to get a ball up to the kids in the front row. Went 0 for 2 initially, finally got it to it, but you love to see when the tight ends get involved.
No better time for your first touchdown as a Goat, Mr. Adrian Tolbert.
The greatest position in all of football, really.
Trujillo again. Conversion is good, the first of the night for St. Joe, and now all of a sudden, here come those St. Joe Goats. 39-31 is the score.
Climbing right back into it, St. Joseph got a little bit of life. This is what they have been doing week after week after week. Going down big, and then the second half comeback. And we might have another one on our hands here.
And for Booth Smith, he finally hits pay dirt, if you will. He gets the 1-point conversion. And how about the change at halftime, Aaron? Go to Angelo Trujillo. He did not play. He recorded 1 pass all of last season. Didn't take a snap at quarterback last week. Didn't take a snap in the first half. And Coach Golston says, we're going to make the change to you. Haven't seen Dylan Van Boxel back out here on the field. And it's been 3 drives, and all 3 have ended in touchdowns. And that last one on the conversion to make it a 1-score game. But that could change here. A big return on Maxwell as he makes a couple of men miss. Past midfield. Goats trying to strip the ball out. Play is still going into the wall. And just what you want for Duluth after seeing the big touchdown to kind of calmly and quickly put it into that big momentum swing in favor of the Goats.
Here's the thing, though. No need to panic if you're St. Joseph. Oh, no, we climbed back and then we gave up that. Hey, this is the Arena League, and there's still over 10 minutes left to go here, Dylan.
No doubt.
Lot of time for anything to happen either direction from these two teams. But for Duluth, the first thing is first. You need points right now to answer what St. Joseph has been doing. You don't want them getting this ball back down just 8 and suddenly feeling like they've got all the momentum in the world.
We saw Duluth not be aggressive. They could have gone for on 4th and 2 deep in their own territory. They surrendered. Goats just cashed it in for the touchdown. The wide open blown coverage to Adrian Tolbert. How aggressive will they be here trying to respond? He throws and it goes wide. Pressure coming immediately from Carl Ware as he is starting to get to Johnson. And that's been a big key in the second half for this defense as well, Aaron, for St. Joe, getting pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, and I talked to Coach Golston during the week, and he mentioned that the biggest key for him defensively has always been about finding ways to generate pressure. He thinks that's the key to football at any rule set, any level. And finally, we're starting to see it here in the second half.
Jamal Couch was the motion man, and he's going to throw it, and it's intercepted in the end zone.
Not touched.
Angelo Trujillo.
And there he is. We talked about him earlier. Trujillo, the team leader in interceptions last year. He was a big play threat defensively, and he's got this crowd back into it. And that's exactly what Duluth did not want to see. And now St. Joseph, not just because they've got the ball back with a chance to go down, but you talk about momentum. You talk about what it can do for a team when you're in the right mindset, not having to deal with anything getting in your own head, anything like that. I mean, you got to feel like you're on top of the world if you're on St. Joseph right now. If you score right here, oh, baby.
Get you a man that can do both, they say, Aaron. Angelo Trujillo, he's been doing it in the second half, has led 3 straight touchdown drives. Now he gets the interception, looking for the 4th. Pump faking his own end zone. Pressure comes. Ball is loose as he was hit. And they're going to say he threw that, and it goes incomplete, and that had safety written all over it.
Yeah, that was danger, danger, Will Robinson right there for Trujillo, and thankfully able to get a pass off. Might need to see if they can hit something real quick here coming out to avoid running that risk a second time.
Sends Thompson in motion, gets it out quick. Boo Smith. And Boo will take it past the 10, right around the 12 or 13.
They'll spot Boo at the 1-2. That'll bring up 3rd down.
Trujillo throws, has a man. Flags come in. It's past midfield. What a run for Adrian Tolbert, but flags came in, 2 of them, right at the early goings of that play, and we might have it coming back.
Phenomenal block by the turf there, though. I don't know if you saw that. Came up, took out 2 defenders.
Maybe that's what the flag is, holding on the turf. Have we had one of those before? How about that one-handed snag? You know what that reminds me of? I go back to Brian Cox. He made many of those last year as the tight end for the Goats, and Adrian Tolbert says, look what I can do. Nice play, but unfortunately I think it is going to be coming back on a penalty on St. Joseph.
As the officials are going to discuss it. Curious to see what the foul is. I didn't think I saw a hold.
So I'm looking at our replay kind of monitor over here, and I'm been looking, and I haven't seen anything that was clear and obvious necessarily, and I think that's part of this conversation that the officials are having. Now the White Hats about to tell the crowds here in the Civic Arena. So yeah, definitely something against the Goats, and I think he initiated that it was.
Okay, so it was an offside and a hold that offset.
I'll say something was declined, so I knew it had to be 2 penalties, and good job for our guys getting that up here into the booth to us. Still 3rd down. Trujillo surveys, looks, finds Boo Smith. He's got his fingerprints more and more on this ball game, and he gets a big catch there up around the 20 for Boo Smith, the league MVP from last year.
Great touch on that pass from Trujillo as well, just perfectly layered in there over the defender.
All sorts of time. Now he finds it. Odom, and it's incomplete. Bobbled in and out of his hands. Another flag comes down late.
Yeah, and that one in just a bit downfield, so we're going to have to see what that was all about. They are, however, talking to the Duluth coach, so an ineligible receiver.
Yep. My favorite. Being the former offensive lineman myself, but let's see exactly who was too far downfield, and not. Unless you're going to tag that to Scott, Oscar Scott. That'd be my best guess to center. In the Arena League, everybody is eligible except the center. So I think.
I believe the ruling is, though, that if you go upfield as the center, you have to go at least 5 yards upfield.
Oh, nearly intercepted as that one kind of came out of the hands a little wobbly. Was looking to get it to Odom. And for Angelo Trujillo, fortunate he didn't give his first interception of the night. In and out of the hands of DeRon Maxwell, who wishes he would see that one again.
Yeah, just got to squeeze the fingers a little bit tighter next time.
Near the sticks, looking for Thompson, and that's batted away, so incomplete.
Duluth back to playing that airtight defense here. We're down under 7 minutes to go. The clock rules here in the Arena League. Sometimes these games will fly by on you.
That was number 24. Again, don't have a name on the roster for 24. He's made some good defensive plays, and that was a good pass breakup. Bring up 3rd down for St. Joe. Little razzle-dazzle, Ryan Martinez trying to get a convoy, and now he's trying to pitch it back. Ball is put down. Oh, what a bad turnover here for St. Joe.
And Martinez can make some special things happen, but right there, an especially bad mistake as he put the ball on the turf. He might have been looking to throw a pass or pitch it. And Duluth comes up with a monster play with 6:31 left to go. That's going to set him up with a first down and goal. And you want to talk about backs to the wall for St. Joseph. This could be a killer.
There were multiple blue jerseys in the area, dark blue, I guess I should say, in this particular matchup in favor of Duluth. And for Ryan Martinez, that one, he's a playmaker, but I think just trying to do a little bit too much with that. Now all of a sudden, a gift for the Harbor Monsters at the 10. Goal to go. Pitch it off here, running up the field, Sessoms, and wrapped up by big Mike Reynolds as he's brought down.
Great play by Boone as well, coming up. Showcasing a little courage going up against a bigger receiver in the open field. Tripped him up. Reynolds obviously finished it off, but that is a good start defensively for St. Joseph.
The defense can somehow hunker down and hold the Harbor Monsters out of the end zone. That'll spark this crowd back up again. Duluth trying to cash in on the turnover again. Sessoms breaks one tackle inside the 5. Convoy brings him down. Inside the 5 goes Duluth. Still 2 downs to hit pay dirt.
Great tackling in the open field by St. Joseph here on this series. Duluth, though, hoping to capitalize. And some quick hands on display, by the way, from Brockman. A couple of plays in a row. He's just had that quick flick of the wrist. Got that ball around a blitzing defender.
Brockman throws, deflected and incomplete. It went off the hands.
And then off the wall, I believe, off the top of the wall, not the bleachers. That ball was live.
It was, you're
until
right.
It hit the ground. That could have been a wild play either way, but now a big 4th and goal. And how about this opportunity for both of these teams? This game could swing in a huge way, one way or the other right here.
This is definitely a play that we could bookmark and look back on when this game goes final.
St. Joseph still showcasing all kinds of different blitz.
Brockman gets rid of it, has his man. He goes in for the touchdown. It's Flowers Jr. once again.
And I think St. Joseph was arguing that there was blocking downfield before the pass, but uncalled. Boo Smith still looks like he was trying to plead his case. As we'll take a look at the replay. And, yeah, I'm not sure that was officially blocking. Just kind of boxed him out like a basketball player. Probably a great no call there from the officiating crew.
Yeah, Raymond Boone trying to plead his case, but again, I mean, looking after that replay, I like the no call there. Good play, and once again, Duluth comes through on 4th down. Now a 1-point conversion, definitely somebody going early. And this has been a great example of just the early season miscues that you will see at any level of this game, of kind of those little false starts, the holdings, those little miscues that you can tell that these teams are not quite at midseason form yet. So back Duluth up 5 yards from the 5 to the 10. Travis Whitlock looking back at Brockman saying, let's hone in here. Let's get this one in. Even though they're going to go from the 10, it's still only a 1-point conversion off the 5-yard penalty. Brockman avoids pressure, has a man, and brings it down as he sits on his backside.
That is a great play by Brockman, avoiding the pressure. That'll make it a 15-point game. 4:19 left to go here, Dylan, and we have seen St. Joseph pull off some crazy fourth quarter maneuvering to get themselves back into football games. Do we have another classic on our hands here?
No doubt about it. I think the big key thing that we're going to look back on this second half, the quarterback change was made. Angelo Trujillo steps in for Dylan Van Boxel. 3 straight scoring drives, and then they got started on their 4th after they were able to hold Duluth off that interception from Angelo Trujillo, and then all of a sudden off that turnover, now Duluth takes that in for a touchdown. That is a prime way of kind of halting a team in their tracks. It'll be very vital here to see how the Goats respond out of this, as Odom will make his way back, ready to return this throw-off as he was heading down to the wrong side of the field, and now he'll make his way back to the far side. Nice heads up for Marcus Sessoms to let him know, hey, man, other way. 4 minutes, 19 seconds to go in this game, down 15 to St. Joe. So definitely need a score, a stop, and then another score.
And the quicker, the better. I loved seeing Oscar Scott making sure that he got his team's attention after every play on the last drive, getting them back up to the line of scrimmage. Look to see that same high tempo, here on this series.
Waiting to throw off, trying to avoid that scoreboard, or it's going to be, and he goes off the rafters, so there you go. It's going to bring the Goats in midfield.
That's an easy way to save some time.
Derek Daniels Jr.
Only need 25 yards.
So for some reason, and this has just been a common thing through the league early, we're 2 weeks in, and throw-offs appear to be kind of the biggest miscue that teams have been struggling with. And that's a potential costly one by Derek Daniels Jr., the second man returning after being on the championship team last year. You got to find a way to get that down the field cleanly and maybe force St. Joe to either make a big return to get him up near midfield. Instead, they have it at mid, and like you mentioned, didn't have to burn very much time off that clock. Out quickly from Trujillo, has his man Boo Smith, who is stopped in his tracks. Number 24 wrapped him up immediately, taking him backwards. Forward progress, maybe, let's see if you got maybe just a yard or two, or they're going to say just back to the line of scrimmage. That appears to be the case, just 1 yard gain.
They'll hurry back to the line.
Backpedaling Trujillo, avoiding the pressure, throws over on the far side. And incomplete. Had his man in the end zone. Down the field was Tolbert. Just couldn't quite get it to him. Now 3rd and 9. High pressure situation here for St. Joe. Trujillo wants it. He gets it. Whitlock closing in on pressure. Throw down the field, and it is caught by Thompson. We got a flag back near midfield.
I believe we had a Duluth player offside, but we'll check if that's officially what it was.
Yes, that appears to be the thing. Much needed call to go in the favor of the Goats there. It adds on a little bit more yards towards the end, or just declined the penalty.
So officially it went as an illegal substitution. So
goal to go at the 9. Trujillo throws, looking for Martinez, just couldn't fit it into the window.
Just a little bit too far there for Ryan Martinez. Fortunate that one wasn't picked off. Normally an overthrow on a post route is trouble. But they'll live to throw another day. 2nd down and goal.
Smith and Martinez near side. Trujillo going to try to run, and he will jump and not break the plane, so he is going to be down at about the 1 or 2.
Might have been better off just trying to lower the shoulder there.
I believe so.
Ended up at the 1.
He kind of took key from a fan that was kind of pointing like, hey, try to jump up, and I think he took it and still just gets a little bit closer. Would have been a spectacular hurdling play. Potential illegal substitution again for Duluth, and there's the flag.
Yes, they caught him with the substitution once again.
That was Felder Jr. that was coming on late. Immediately tried to peel back and jump into the field suite. But the illegal substitution was called. And now, big fella, Travis Whitlock is the man that jumps over the barrier this time. He'll come off the field for Duluth.
A little harder for those linemen than the DBs and receivers to sub in and out over the wall.
Big Travis Whitlock, 6'3", 270 pounds out of Costa Mesa, California. He spent the last decade or so with the Black Bay Rugby Club and just playing rugby for the better part of the past decade or so. Now here in the Arena League. Whistles will be blown here and a timeout called. This one will go against Duluth. So now we will potentially start to get to that territory of the game where we're going to start seeing both teams burn their timeouts. That's the first for Duluth, so they have 2 remaining. St. Joe still with all 3 timeouts. Dance team coming back out onto the field here. Again, you're watching Arena League action here live on YouTube. I'm Dylan Funk, joined alongside Aaron Feely. The Goats will be back here at home coming up in 2 weeks. They will be back on the road next week. Meanwhile, for Duluth, they will return home for their first home game of the year. It'll be ring night as they will celebrate the championship team from last summer. And they will get their rings, and it'll be without their head coach Tony O'Neill. He is serving his 2-game suspension. Game 1 tonight. Game 2 will be next week. But by the way this Duluth team has been playing today, you would not know that they have been without their lead play caller and their leader overall and head coach O'Neill. 3rd down and goal here for the Goats right around the 2. Trujillo trying to punch it in here, make it a 1-score game again. Get the Goats within that territory. Takes the snap, rolls to his right, throws to get rid of it. It is caught And touchdown again for St. Joe, and again it is Lorenzo Thompson.
Some skirmish behind the play as well. No flag, though. It looked like that was Oscar Scott and Derek Daniels Jr. getting tied up. But more importantly than any of that, once again, St. Joseph has gotten themselves back within a score. Man, this is maybe the most exciting fourth quarter team in all the Arena League, Dylan.
Arguably.
So they'll go for two.
With time for Trujillo. Might try to take it himself. He can run with it just being a 2-point conversion instead of trying to go for one. Fighting hard, and he is in there.
What an effort.
Show off the gumption there, why don't you?
What a play by Angelo Trujillo. And the finish. The whole Goats squad came over to help push him across that goal line.
He took advantage, no pressure, and man, he was stopped in his tracks at about the 2, and he was carried. Oscar Scott did a good job of helping him get across. Nicely done by him. Wow.
Fan got himself a souvenir. I think went over the top of one of the ladies that I think is with him in his party here that's sitting right in front of him, and he's letting her know that she got mossed. Gotta love the fan engagement here in the Arena League, Dylan. It really adds to the atmosphere. Builds a lot of hometown camaraderie and rivalries throughout the league. A lot of hometown pride here in St. Joseph getting their team for the first time this year.
And you said it there. You got Moss. Shout out, obviously, to one of the greatest of all time, Randy Moss, out of Marshall University. And also, building on that, too, Rakeem Cato, the quarterback last year for the Goats, expected to return and rejoin the team later this season. Also, just this past year was inducted into the Marshall Thundering Herd Hall of Fame as well. So you can find Rakeem Cato and Randy Moss both in the Hall of Fame catalog there at Marshall. So here we go. This is coming down to the wire here. 1:43. Again, the clock, when it's under 2 to go in the second and fourth quarters, they work a little bit more traditionally where the clock is going to stop on incompletions and stuff like that. The clock will not just continue to run. And obviously, timeouts will be a factor. St. Joseph with all 3, Duluth with 2.
Probably impacting the decision here. They're going to just throw it off and trust their defense as opposed to taking the fourth down play.
This is a play, again, for if you're telling Lorenzo Thompson, just avoid the scoreboard, avoid the rafters, and get it down the field cleanly. You cannot afford to give the ball to Duluth in midfield. Return man is Deron Maxwell. As they are waiting just for to be given the green light to throw this one off. It has been a great crowd here inside the Civic Arena at St. Joe, and for these Goats trying to complete this comeback, we're down by as many as 21 points at one point in this game, as this throw will get down into the chest of Maxwell. He fields it. Could have a holding penalty coming in here. Haven't seen a flag yet, but nonetheless, it'll be up against the wall for Maxwell. He'll be stopped as he just passes the 20-yard line. I thought initially when he was cutting it out to his left, there was a Goats player that was trying to reach out, and it looked like he might have been held, and that would have been the last thing you wanted to see there if you're a Duluth fan. But instead, the return stands. He picks up about an extra yard or two, so call it about 1st and 10 from the 22-yard line here for Duluth.
So if you're St. Joseph, you want this to go one of two ways. Either make the stop, give your offense a chance to go down and tie or win it. Or if you're going to give up that score, make it quick.
That's it. Back to Brockman. Throws. Little screenplay. Reynolds is there, but didn't wrap up. Now the cavalry arrives and plowing him backwards.
Big defensive play there for St. Joseph, hitting him in the backfield.
The Division I NCAA tandem from the Big 12, Mike Reynolds out of Kansas, and then coming in was Jalen Jordan, the man out of Ole Miss in the SEC, to finish off that tackle. Nicely done there. The clock will stop as who called a timeout. I would imagine it'd be charged against the Goats, so I'm just going to go on a limb here and say
probably a safe
timeout for St. Joe. Yep. So it was that snap. It was taken by Flowers Jr. He pitched it back to Hassan Brockman. We haven't seen Javante Johnson out on the field for Duluth over the past couple of drives. It's been all Brockman. He took over on that last scoring drive out the Goats turnover, that fumble from Brian Martinez, and now he is out here leading the way again. And Hassan Brockman, just 6'1", 190 pounds, second year with the team. He was on the championship team last year, and he was the championship game co-MVP. In that Arena Mania win, the 2-point win, 46-44 against the Iowa Woo. And his job right now, take care of the ball and try to march his team down the field and bleed the rest of this time away and seal up win number 2 in the regular season for the Harbor Monsters. This time it's to Johnson. He will throw, and he has his man who gets by the marker into the big body of Dan Williams.
And clock still running as we head to third down.
So they're going to need to get it to about.
Looks like they'll need about 7 yards here.
Looks about it. They got one of the yard marker sticks up and the other one is not up. So 2 downs to get 7 yards, like you mentioned. Pitch back to Brockman. Throws down the field looking for his man and overthrown and incomplete. He had McAllister with some space. He went over the top of that defense for St. Joe. Antonio Taylor Jr., the nearest goat in coverage. And here's the big play of the game. 4th down and 7.
And there's no point in giving them the surrender here because you're only going to gain about 10 yards of field position. So they're going to go for it and try to win this game on offense. And for St. Joseph, an opportunity to get this crowd to absolutely blow the dome off the Civic Arena.
41 seconds. T-shirts are coming off, turned into rally towels. Oh, yeah, here we go in the garage, baby.
We got spilled popcorn all over the place.
4th and 7. Johnson to Brockman. Incomplete. Threw it at his shoelaces.
And we got crowd on their feet here in St. Joseph. We got fans trying to hype up the guys behind them. And it'll be St. Joseph first down by 7. And here's where you start to wonder, Dylan.
Here we go.
You score here. You're going for 2, right?
I would imagine.
You're going from the 10?
I think you're going to go for 2.
Man, this game has lived up to the billing. It looked like Duluth was absolutely going to turn this thing into a laugher earlier on in this half. They had a massive lead. And, man, isn't this just the St. Joseph way? A late 4th quarter comeback.
The Cardiac Goats many times made some magic last year, looking to do it again here. We're down by as many as 21, and now a throw to the end zone. Incomplete.
Looking for Boo Smith on the post route. He thought he had him and just unable to make the connection.
33 seconds on the clock. Good job, the Harbor Monster defensive back, able to help bat that ball down. 2nd and 10, Trujillo. Flag is out. Smith caught middle of the field, just past the Harbor Monster 20. Clock is stopped as we do have a flag.
So we'll
hearing an illegal deep.
So they were lined up right
defense.
over the top of the center, an illegal formation against the defense for Duluth. Goats noticed it immediately. You saw all of them pointing at the Harbor Monsters as soon as the play ended.
And the flag came in from the back, Judge. I mean, almost in the far back of the field near the end zone. So that was a pretty good indication that it could be against the defense, and that's what it was. So move them up an extra 5 yards. 2nd and 10 becomes 2nd and 5.
They might be lined up on the center again.
30 seconds on the clock.
They might want to adjust that.
That's Daniels Jr. right in front of Oscar Scott, the center. No flags. Trujillo will dish it off. Tolbert, the big man, 15-10, rumbling past the 5, and he goes. Touchdown, St. Joe.
Unbelievable. And now it all comes down to this conversion. You imagine Adrian Tolbert doing it for the tight ends of the world.
His 2nd touchdown of the night. All have come at this end of the field. We are under 30 to go in the game, and now decision time here for St. Joe. Are they going to go for the tie? Will they go for the win? It's at the 5. So they will play to the adage of at home, play for the tie, on the road, play for the win. What a play for Tolbert, his first game as a GOAT.
Not all about those wide receivers here in the Arena League. The big fellas get to eat too sometimes,
Give him some love,
Dylan.
Aaron. Oh, yeah. Feed the beast. What a game it has been for Adrian Tolbert out of San Diego, California. His first game of the season with the GOATs, not active last week. Again, he was in the Arena League last year with the Iowa Woo, and he was a part of that Woo team that beat these GOATs in the postseason game, the big upset that sent the Woo into the championship game. He's been around the Arena Pro scene for many years, including some stints playing European football overseas, and now he has found himself here in St. Joe, and no better time for him to ride for the GOATs. His second touchdown, and that one potentially bringing the GOATs close to tying the game. Still a 1-point conversion away. Need it here. 22 seconds. That last timeout called for by Duluth. They have one remaining. St. Joe's still with all 3. Some extra time for them to talk the play call over. Now the 20-second play clock will start. Scott up to the football, ready to snap it back. Trujillo in the backfield by himself. Here he goes, looking left, now to the middle, fires to the end zone, and it is incomplete. That is the call, incomplete.
So there was some confusion initially. So we'll take a look at the replay here. The crowd all thought they had just tied up this game.
So I think that's bringing the discussion up of where exactly is the ball live between off the top of the wall and then the bleachers, because, I mean, they are stacked right up against one another, and I think that potentially could have been the kind of – that was the scenario there.
So here we go. Here's one of the unique rules of the Arena League. No onside kicks, of course, because it's throw-off, so they're going to take a untimed 4th down play from deep in their own territory. And it's pretty simple here, Dylan. Get this to keep yourself alive down by 1. If you fail, Duluth's celebrating.
That's it. If St. Joe does not convert, 16 left to go in the ball game, it is pretty much all but over.
You need 20 yards here. You need to get to midfield. This could be Ryan Martinez territory.
Goats the victim of late game magic last week, and the come from behind win. It was cut off by a walk-off Hail Mary from 30 yards by the Ozark Lunkers to close the game off. And now here for St. Joseph, as I believe the final timeout will be called here by Duluth. So they have no more remaining. St. Joe still with all 3. I mean, this is it here. 4th down and 20. So you got to get to midfield. So we saw, you kind of alluded to with Ryan Martinez in the postseason game last year, Aaron, they did a play like this, and he made a miraculous from the back of his own end zone, made everybody miss, and ran it all the way for a touchdown. One of the most watched highlights in the Arena League from all of last season. Everybody always took note of you hyperventilating there at the end when he scored the touchdown. It was great. I was losing my voice. It was just quite a day it was that game. But now a chance here to make a new highlight, atop of the highlight reel here early in 2025. Who will it be for St. Joe? Smith, almost parallel in the back of the end zone with Trujillo. He will be sent in motion. And coming across early for Duluth.
They'll blow it dead. So no free play here or anything of that nature. So also discuss who the guilty party was.
Unless of a GOAT came early, which I don't believe was the case, and they confirmed that. It was Daniels Jr. again that was trying to jump the gun up the middle and get by the center, Oscar Scott, to get some quick pressure on Trujillo in the back of the end zone. So that will now make 4th and 20, universally 4th and 15.
A little bit easier in the Arena League with a lot more space to operate. See if they try to go Smith deep.
Cross his body, tipped, and
that's live.
Up against the wall, fighting for it, but it's called incomplete. If Martinez could have found a way to bring that in, it would have been right at the line to gain. And it looks like here in the Civic Arena, the comeback bid of 21+ for the Goats is going to come up just a little short.
That has unfortunately been the story of their season to this point.
So as of right now, there still is 16 seconds. We have seen a lot happen, but
but Duluth can just probably go ahead and kneel on this one, you imagine.
Fans are now starting to make their way out of the Civic Arena. You're going to see players starting to dap each other up and saying good game. But, I'm just going to put this out here for St. Joe. They were in the same boat last week where they were bleeding the clock away. Game was going to be over, and then all of a sudden 25 seconds were added at the end, and the rest is history. But barring any additional time being added or some magic that would re-spark, as Brockman will take it and take that knee. Goats still with all 3 timeouts, so that is the thing to keep in mind.
I'm not going to.
But I don't think they're not going to take them. So this game is over. Duluth, reigning Arena Mania champions, start the season perfect, 2-0 in regular season, 3-0 including their preseason win. And for St. Joe, 3 timeouts in their back pocket, decide not to use them. Matt Eberflus, is that you? But there at the end, I think, don't blame the decision there from Golson and company, 16 seconds. Not wanting to see anybody else get hurt or anything like that. But what a thriller this was here in the garage. Unfortunately, the Goats will have to wait a little bit longer, at least 2 more weeks to get that first win here at home. And most importantly, Aaron, they lost 2 games all of last season, regular season and postseason. And now 2 weeks in, they're 0-2.
Yeah, and they're going to try to bounce back from that one, obviously get back into the playoff positioning. Might not be in a perfect position right now to try to get that 1 seed again like they had last year, but hey, as long as you can get in, you can make magic happen. Iowa almost threw everyone through a loop last year.
For us here in the Civic Arena, we will now send it down to Riley Underwood and Commissioner, NFL Hall of Famer Tim Brown for your post-game show. Fellas, take it away.
Final score, Duluth 46, St. Joseph 45. Welcome into the Arena League post-game show. Riley Underwood alongside my partner, Tim Brown. Tim, halftime, we were thinking this might be a score away from a blowout, a runaway victory for the Harbor Monsters. Really anything but.
No, I tell you what, it was really good to see the Goats come out and play really, really good football in the second half. A couple of plays at the end, they could have won this thing, but they got a lot to build on. Hopefully they'll go back and do that and be ready for next week.
The Goats could have tied it up at the very end with that 1-point conversion they chose to do instead of taking the lead and trying to get the win for the 2-point conversion, but dropped in the back of the end zone by Ryan Martinez. Just a tough catch.
Yeah, it's a tough catch. I was either you got to be able to adjust your body weight or have great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a tough catch. But in the end, for the Goats, a losing performance, but they might have found a new quarterback, really. They started the game with Dylan Van Boxel. He had 2 touchdowns and an interception. And then came in the backup, who was the defensive back, Angelo Trujillo. He had 1 score on the ground, 4 touchdowns. Well, he also had an interception. Yeah. But his interception was on defense.
It was on defense, yeah. He caught an interception. But, look, they have nothing. They came out of here knowing that they have a quarterback who could really make plays for him. There were a couple opportunities he had to run that I think if he'd had more reps, he would have seen that coming earlier. So I think this guy is really going to be good for the Goats.
Ryan Martinez and Lorenzo Thompson had 2 receiving touchdowns for St. Joseph. And again, for the Harbor Monsters, it was Hassan Brockman who really put on a show. They used the misdirection a little bit with KJ Felder, not as much as the first game against Iowa, but Brockman finished the game with 5 passing touchdowns. A pretty good performance for him.
I tell you what, man, the Harbor Monsters they're a tough team to beat, man. They really are. I mean, defensively they play great. In offense, they just have so many little tricks that it's hard to know when they're coming, and it makes it very difficult for these guys.
Dan the Threat Williams had 2 touchdowns. Ladarius Allister had 2. And then the newcomer was Jarvay Flowers Jr., new addition to the roster this week. He had 2 of his own, so pretty big pickup for Duluth in that regard. But overall, it was just a pretty good comeback by the Goats. Just couldn't get it done at the very end.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is something that you can build on, right? You never want to lose 2 games to open up a season, but at the same time, you still have time. And this year's a little different because last year everybody made the playoffs. This year you got to be in the top 4. And so they got some time to build on this, and I believe they will.
So Duluth rises to 2-0. The Goats drop to 0-2. A game in action tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, 3:05 p.m. throw-off. That's Hot Springs at Iowa, so should be a pretty good game to get your Sunday started off right.
No doubt about it. We saw the Hot Springs team last week, and they really play really good football. So that's and Iowa needs to win. They need to win. They need to win bad. So should be a good football game.
Hot Springs looking to continue that hot start, 1-0, of course, in their inaugural game. But that'll do it for the post-game show. Final score from St. Joseph Civic Arena: Duluth 46, St. Joseph 45. For Riley Underwood, Tim Brown, thank you for joining us. Have a blessed night. We'll see you next week on Arena Game Day.